Good morning, everybody. I'll invite you to take your seats as we prepare for today's service. Good morning, Facebook land, Zoomers. Happy to have you with us this morning. And for those of you that are finding us from other places on the planet, it's kind of a chilly day here in Joplin, Missouri. It's very weird, but it's warm in here, and we are so grateful to be here today. My name is Ann. I'm the platform assistant today, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Unity of Joplin. We invite you to share on your social media. If you are here, well, we know you're here, but if you are fully present with us, and also check in on our Facebook page throughout the week, like our posts, share those too, because here's a little clue, you guys. It shows interest and activity for our page and our organization. And that's going to be really important in the coming months as we welcome guest speakers, potential ministerial candidates. They're going to want to see that we are lively, alert, and active. So thank you for your participation. And it is a special day. It is Reverend Gordon's birthday. And if you didn't know, he is spending his last few weeks with us as he will be returning home to Albuquerque to serve the church there. And so I think it's really cool that you're wrapping up this year with us and launching your next solar return by going back to New Mexico. We wish you a blessed day. And for those of you here in the sanctuary, we have a little sweet treat afterwards, so stick around. All right. Hi, guys. Good morning. We're so grateful to have our music team, and we will begin with our monthly song, Oh, What a Beautiful Morning. Yeah, stand up.
There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. There's a bright golden haze on the meadow. The corn is as high as an elephant's eye, and it looks like it's climbing clear up to the sky. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, the cattle are standing like statues. All the cattle are standing like statues. They don't turn their heads as they see me ride by. But a little brown maverick is winking her eye. Oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. All the sounds of the earth are like music. All the sounds of the earth are like music. The breeze is so busy, it don't miss a tree. And an old weeping willow is laughing at me. what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day. I got a beautiful feeling. Everything's going my way. Oh, what a beautiful day.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Thank you. That is Jerry on the keyboard and Gary as our vocalist, part of our music team that we are so grateful to have here. And we also thank Mike and Michael for our tech support. You guys are great manning all of that for us. And I'd also like to introduce, well, you know and love him, Jefferson, who is our trustee of the day and also our board president. He's actually, you can be in about 3 places at once, right? You're here with us. He's monitoring the Facebook chat. Any questions that you have about Unity, anything you need, Facebookers, just drop it in the chat and Jeff will be on guard watching. Thank you. And again, I'm Ann. I am the platform person today. My pleasure to be with you. And our meditation and lesson will be with Reverend Gordon. Just a couple of announcements before we get in. I just noticed you guys are like, I feel like I should be leaning all on one side of the room here. That's okay. But just a couple of announcements. Our Kindness Garden Day is May 15th. Going to finish up some of the good work our Earth Care team started a couple of weeks ago, and we would love to have your help. Also, speaking of gardens and plants and growing things, we need help with the plants here at the church, getting them ready and prepped for the summer season. That will be happening May 22nd. If you could stay after that service to kind of help get those loaded out the door, we would appreciate it. A Saturday? Okay. Okay, yes, it is. It is. It's also the tornado anniversary. So yeah, it is a Saturday. But yeah, we'll 10 o'clock, did we say? 10 to 2. Okay. Yes, please help. It'll just, yeah, many hands make light work. As we prepare for today's service, I'm going to invite Michael to share with us the inspiration of the day, and then we'll move on to a congregational song, and that will be followed by the meditation with Gordon. But first, Michael, good morning.
Good morning. This morning I am sharing the absolute word, motherly love. I joyously give thanks for motherly love. In Myrtle Fillmore's Healing Letters, we learn God is love. We make divine love into loving. My mother made divine love into loving me and others. My mother used her divine wisdom and understanding to give her way along with her divine strength to carry on nurturing me as I grew. My praise and gratitude show my mother and others how much I appreciate them. I demonstrate my thankfulness for their motherly example when I am nurturing with others. I use divine love to express motherly love in my own words and actions with all people. I listen patiently and share encouraging words. I seek to be a caring and supportive presence. I willingly share my skills and knowledge when someone seeks my help. In gratitude, I share the gift of nurturing love. I joyously give thanks for motherly love.
God. All I have is thine, for it came from thee, yet is truly mine. When I can believe, and my will is thine. If I ask in faith, anything is mine. Love and joy and health, wisdom, peace, and wealth, bright ideas and more, these we have in store. Christ within us knows we are truly one with the power of God, whose loving will is done. When I can believe, and my will is thine, for abundant good, praise to thee we sing.
Guys, and happy Mother's Day to all of you who are mothers. Whether you have birthed a child or nurtured a child or supported a child or encouraged a child, we honor each and every one of you today. So let's take a moment and turn within. As we think about our mothers, mothers that come in all flavors, all colors, all energies. Mothers who were perfect in every way and mothers who were very human. We surround all mothers with our love and with the light of a blessing. Breathing into this now moment together, I think of my own mother. I think of the challenges she went through. Some were probably because of me. I think of the times she lived in, of the changes that the culture of her generation endured and grew through. I think of her loving energy that not only birthed me, but fills me to this day. I think of her humanness and all the times that maybe I thought, oh, if she could only be different, only to realize that in her uniqueness, she empowered me to be who I have become. I honor my mother. I honor all mothers. I send them love and strength, acknowledging that it is not an easy task. to be a mother. I think of the energy that human mothers express and experience, that of the divine feminine. The power and the ability to bring forth life. The energy of thinking on a different level than merely intellect. For the divine energy of God is the movement of God. It is the very life of God flowing throughout all of creation. It is the vibration of love. And so this day I give thanks for that energy of the feminine, that mother God energy, the mother energy that is the movement of love bringing forth life, growth, healing, and peace. I rest for a moment in open receptivity of that blessing of the motherhood of God. In the silence, I receive. And having received, I prepare in the week ahead to give some of that divine energy, whether I am feminine or masculine, to give some of that divine feminine energy to those whom I meet. To give, maybe just through a silent blessing, a blessing of life, a blessing of love. A blessing that sees the divine potential of every child of God. And so we come back to this time and place in our physical expressions. And we close by saying, thank you. Thank you to all mothers, everywhere and every when. And so it is.
Thank you, Gordon. You had that part in there about the changes that our mothers have seen in their lifetimes. And I'm thinking about my mom. She did my hair and her hair with those pink curlers, sponge curl. Yeah, okay. And then when we moved on to the hot rollers, it threw her for a loop. Because they were so hot and they get tangled in your hair and she'd get very frustrated. So that's just one small change that my mom saw. You guys in Facebook land on Zoom, think of a silly change. Well, it wasn't so silly back then, but think of a little change like that. Drop it into the chat, something that your mom experienced over the years. We know things are moving so fast, and we're going to be seeing even more of our own changes, but that was when I thought of immediately from my mom. And I give thanks for my mom. I give thanks for the opportunity to be here at Unity of Joplin. And I invite all of you to share your gratitude as well as we bless our tithes and love offerings. We have our giving box here in front of me. If you would like to share your gift that way, you're welcome to bring it forward. I'll give you a moment just to prepare your gifts, and then we'll bless them together. And those of you in Facebook world, you can just symbolically join us by taking your gifts into your hands, as we know together that in a universe overflowing with the allness of God, all the needs of unity of Joplin and those we serve are bountifully met. From every direction, known and unknown, expected and unexpected, our abundant good is here now. We do say thank you, God, because we know that these tithes and offerings are dedicated to the will and work of Spirit through unity of Joplin and for the highest good of all. And we give thanks in advance for the message we are about to receive from Gordon. And thank you all for your support.
There is a smile that shines so brightly. There is a smile I see every day. There is a face, a beacon of light. She guides me along the way. There are two hands that held me gently. There are two hands that reach out for me to give a hug or give me comfort. Your love is all I need. Mother's Day is here, it's that time of year, giving thanks for your love, for your kindness, your warmth, your guidance, a gift from up above. There is a heart that shares my secrets. There is a heart that shines in the night. She fills my days with warmth and laughter, making my future bright. There is a home that's full of sunshine. There is a home, a place I belong. My mother makes it extra special. She fills my days with song. Mother's Day is here, it's that time of year, giving thanks for your love, for your kindness, your warmth, your guidance, a gift from up above.
Thank you, Gary and Jerry, and everybody who helps us create our Sunday experience. It is so nice to be able to be here. It's been 2 years since we've been able to come together on Mother's Day, hasn't it? Does it feel good? Yes. Yes, it does. And those of you out there watching virtually, we have more room in the pods. So make sure you get registered in advance. Make sure you sign up before Thursday of each week to be in a pod, and we'll get you on there. It's so nice. We are getting closer and closer and closer to being back together in spiritual family again. Well, today we honor our mothers. And you know, in ministry, it's a kind of a tricky holiday for ministers because we recognize that mothers are human beings. And some of us had great mothers, and some of us had mothers that had challenges, and there may be some of you who never even met your mothers. But you had one. You're here. And regardless of how our mothers showed up in our lives and in the world, we know that we owe a debt to them that really can never be paid, except perhaps on how we experience motherhood. Even us guys, we have that divine feminine power within us. And I'm really feeling out of balance here. I'm going to stand over here. So we all have that energy within us. We all have mothers that we can be thankful for. You know, mine wasn't perfect. She had her challenges. But I think back, and as I have matured in my life, I've realized that despite the struggles, despite the hard times, I would not be who I am today had it not been for her influence. And I think all of us have at least somebody who was a mother figure to us that we can look back on and say, thank you. Thank you. And even if we had a mother who had some challenges, we can look back and we can say, thank you. As I said, being a mother is a difficult experience. I know because I was a son and I was probably one of the challenges she had. In fact, I can promise you I was. So it's a difficult challenge. And we oftentimes don't think about what our mothers really experienced in their lives. Now, those of you who are mothers probably have a better idea than those of us who are fathers or have never had that experience ourselves. But we know motherhood of any kind is a difficult job. At best, at best. And of course, it has massive rewards. So today I'd like to share with you a couple mothers from the Bible, 2 in particular, and tell you some of their backstories, some of the stories you may not be familiar with. The first was a mother who lived many years ago. Her name was Bathsheba. You may know her name as Bathsheba. But how many of you really know anything about her? I see no hands, so I can make this up as I go along. No, my mother always told me to tell the truth. Bathsheba was the 7th daughter back in the time of the early kingdom of Israel, back in the time of David. Imagine what it must have been like for her as a child growing up. The 7th daughter in a patriarchal society. A peasant. I imagine times were pretty tough for her as she was growing up. We don't know who her mother was. We know her father was named Eliam. And we know that as she grew, yes, somebody's playing tricks on me here. Okay. We know that as she grew, she was very beautiful. We also know that by the time she reached her teenage years, David was the king. Now, when I say David, who do you think of? You think of the young boy herding sheep, singing beautiful songs to Saul the king and slaying Goliath. Those are all wonderful pictures of David as a child. He didn't grow up to be a very good person. He really didn't. If you read the stories, power went to his head. And in the story in the Bible, in the book of Samuel, there is a line that says, in the spring, when the kings marched out to war, David sent his armies out to battle the Ammonites and numerous other peoples. Did you hear that carefully? In the spring, when the kings go out to war, David the king sent his armies out, and he stayed behind. Now, at that time, he had 300 or 400 wives and numerous concubines. He certainly wasn't interested in going out and potentially being killed. But he had no qualms about sending others out. And one of the others was a man named Uriah who had a daughter named Bathsheba. Well, lo and behold, one evening, David goes up on the roof of the palace, and he's looking out over his city, and he sees Bathsheba bathing. And he falls instantly in love with her. And he sends his servants to bring her to him, and he takes her as his 432nd wife or something like that. But he's got a problem. She's married to Uriah. So he decides to have Uriah killed in battle by his own men. As I said, David didn't turn out too good. He didn't listen to his mother growing up. Anyway, he had never had a child. And of course, what does every king want? An heir. So, sure enough, Bathsheba becomes pregnant. That child dies. But over the course of time, she has several more children with him. It must have been tough being a mother in David's palace, having to share it with hundreds of other wives of your husband. And because she was the only one who bore children, the others were very jealous of her. And they were constantly picking on her and constantly putting her down and constantly insulting and mistreating her children. Imagine what that was like, being that mother. But she persevered. There's a phrase we hear nowadays that has gone down through history, especially in motherhood. She persevered. Now, I'd like to say her first four sons grew up to be wonderful individuals. They did not. They did not. Not one of them. One of them slept with his father's concubines. One of them tried to overthrow and kill his father. One killed his own brother. And the list goes on and on and on. And through all of this, the kingdom is starting to fall apart. David is falling out of popularity. All the other people in the palace hate Bathsheba. And she's trying to keep it all together and keep the kingdom together as well. She actually was quite the peacemaker, even with other peoples. Well, eventually they had another son, and they named him Suleiman. You know him as Solomon. And of course, Solomon grew up to be very wise and became a great king. He reunited the kingdom. He put an end to the unrest. But what a lot of you may not have been aware of is that letters he wrote to royalty in the surrounding kingdoms that he made peace with and established trade agreements with, many of those letters survived. And there was a theme in so many of those letters that has echoed down through history. And that theme was the influence that Bathsheba had on him becoming the king he was. He said that she was the embodiment of the love of God, that it was her who gave him the skills and the wisdom of God. He praised his mother as being the energy of God in motion. He wrote that to the king of I believe it was the Hittite Empire, that Bathsheba is the voice that speaks through me. She is the energy of the love of God. How often do we think about just how powerful that divine feminine energy is in the world? How much it influences us? How many things our mothers said and taught us and modeled for us? And all mothers modeled and taught us that we use every day, and sometimes without realizing it, without recognizing the struggles and the challenges that they had in their lives. We talked in the meditation, and Ann mentioned it, the changes that my generation's mothers went through. And I believe probably all generations of mothers go through many, many changes. But look at the vast shift in culture in my parents and most of your parents' generations. Phenomenal. And they persevered. I'm going to share with you the story of another mother. This one you know better. This one you've heard some about. But I don't think we often think about her experience as a mother. And that, of course, was the mother of Jesus, Mary. You know, we think of Mary as being Jesus' mother the day he's born, and then really not again until he's out doing his ministry. What about all the 30 years in between? Do you know she changed his diapers? Contrary to popular belief, he was a human child. And yes, he needed his diapers changed when he was a baby. She fed him, she nurtured him. What a lot of people don't know is that most likely Joseph had children as well before he married Mary. So she inherited Joseph's children. We know pretty sure that Jesus had at least 5 full brothers and sisters. Imagine that family. And imagine poor Mary. Here's this young girl, 14 years old, not only has a baby of her own, but most likely inherited children that she had to raise. Do we often think about the time she sat with them when they were ill? And there were a lot more illnesses back in those days. That she worried about their education. Yes, children were educated, not to the degree necessarily they are today, but they were educated, especially Jewish children in the temple. And they had obligations and skills they had to learn as part of their spiritual practice. She had to take care of the entire household, which meant Joseph. She had to worry about her children growing up in an occupied kingdom where there was a lot of civil unrest and a lot of rebellion against the Roman Empire that was ongoing and in the culture, and young people were constantly being drawn into that. Can you imagine that, Mary? And then Jesus became a teenager, along with his brothers and sisters. And there are some truths about all of us when we are teenagers. We like to push the boundaries, don't we? You know, there's a story, one of my favorite stories about Jesus. It's not the stories of his healing. Those are miraculous and all of that. It's not the story of the crucifixion. It's not any of that. It's a story of an incident that happened when he was 13 years old. Some of you know the story. It's Passover. Typical in their tradition, families travel from their hometown, Nazareth in Jesus' case, to Jerusalem to celebrate the Passover. And there's these huge caravans of people that are traveling. And they go to Jerusalem, they have the Passover, they go to the temple and all of that, and they're all coming back home. Now imagine the scene. Here you are, a mother. We got your family. You have thousands of people on the road going back to Nazareth. You have Roman battalions going back and forth because they bring extra troops in for the Passover to keep things in order. You have vendors with food, farmers. It's chaos. And you're going back home after the Passover, and you've got all these kids, and many of the people in your group are in your caravan that stretches for probably a good mile or so, are family members. So your kids are with somebody, right? Except they come to a place where they're going to make camp for the night, and they get the family together, and they're all sitting there getting ready, I imagine, for dinner or something. And guess what? 13-year-old Jesus is not there. Okay, think about that. Do we ever think about Mary's reaction in that moment? Here is one of her children who presumably she knew was going to be special, had something he was destined to do that was pretty important. And he's not there. So they probably figure, okay, he's just hanging out with one of the other relatives, cousins or somebody. And they go up and down the caravan looking for him. And he's not there. So the next day they have to go all the way back to Jerusalem. Now, Jerusalem's a big city. He could be anywhere. Anything could happen. Can you feel Mary's energy here? Some of you may have had an experience where your kid disappeared for a while, and I know I did, and it's scary, isn't it? Well, eventually they find him sitting in the temple, talking to the elders of the temple, arguing scripture, which is a practice they do. It's not, they don't fight, they actually discuss it. It's pretty cool if you've never had the opportunity to do that in the Jewish tradition. Can you imagine Mary? You get over here right now, young man. And his response, I must be about my Father's business. Yeah, I imagine she reacted as most mothers of teenage boys would react. I'll bet you anything. And there's a clue in that story in the gospel that tells us how she reacted. Because the next line after they find him is, Jesus was forced to cling to his mother for a time, which means, guess what? You're grounded, young man. You are going to stand right here by me for the next 2 weeks. Motherhood. These people were mothers. They were human beings. They experienced many of the same kinds of emotions and challenges in different times and different cultures, but the basic energy is the same. You worry about your children. You strive to nurture your children. You help them grow. That's motherhood. That's why we honor motherhood. And yes, we do also honor the divine feminine. You know, a lot of ministers, they say, well, you know, Mother's Day is tough for some people, so I'm not even really going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about the divine feminine. You cannot talk about one without the other. You really can't. And so mothers embody that energy of the divine feminine. And the divine feminine sometimes has to be tough. Moms, do you sometimes have to be tough? Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about dads later. But moms, you got to be tough sometimes. And you worry. And you work. And you sweat. And you go without sleep. And you deal with poopy, smelly diapers and stuff. Dads can do that too, by the way. This is the energy of love. It's not always pretty. It's not always easy. It's not always perfect. But it is the movement of divine love in the human experience. We could extend it and say in all experience, all life experience. But it is the energy, the movement of love. And that is why we take at least one day out of the year. We should do it maybe more. But we take one day out of the year to honor mothers, all mothers, our own earthly mothers, our ancestor mothers. How many of us ever think about all the generations of mothers that caused us to be here right now? I mean, most of us probably know our grandparents and maybe our great-grandparents, but beyond that, you know, one of the things that we have in our family, my sister has gotten real into genealogy and our family history and everything, and we're finding out who some of these mothers in our lineage were. And they were amazing people for their times. And they don't get written into the history books because we've been a patriarchal society. And hopefully that's changing. Hopefully, because we need more of that divine feminine at work in our world. We need to have much more emphasis on it, because that mother energy is the energy of life-giving, life-affirming. It is the movement of love, which we so desperately need in our world. We always have, but we need it now. And it is up to us then to bring that energy forth. So this Mother's Day, I invite you to take a moment, whoever your mother was, however she was, take a moment, bring her to your consciousness, and thank her. Thank her for everything she did, whether it was perfect or not. Because even those things that were not, maybe they gave you the strength to be who you are today. Maybe they gave you wisdom. Maybe they inspired you. But take a moment and send a blessing to your mother. And then extend that by giving a blessing to all mothers. Be the energy of the divine feminine at work, the movement of divine love in the world. And then watch it change. So I hope you will join me in saying to our mothers, we love you, we bless you, and we truly appreciate you wherever you may be. For we behold the Christ in you. Happy Mother's Day.
Thank you, and happy Mother's Day to you too. And it's an opportunity to mother that inner child as well as all of our children with our blessing today. And it's right there on the screen, so join me. Children, you are a perfect child of God, and God and I love you just the way you are. Yes, it's so true. All right, I'll invite you to stand for our peace song and our prayer for protection.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, what he said was meant to be. With God as creator, we are family. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. Step I take, let this be my song now. Take each moment and live each moment, peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
Thank you. We wish you a wonderful week. For those of us here in the sanctuary, please stick around for a little sweet treat. And oh, no sweet treats today. Oh, that's right. The weather didn't cooperate. Well, we were thinking of you. We wish you a good day. All right. Yes, we want to be socially distant and safe. So we'll postpone for another time. How about that? Okay. All right. Thanks, you guys, for being here. Great to see you. Yes. Oh, yeah, that. I was on to the sweet stuff.